Again, we are waiting till another 1 minute, so everyone or the participants can arrive and enter the webinar. Okay, so the time is here. Good morning again, everyone, and good afternoon if you are watching us from different countries. Welcome to QRTA Talk. Please, by using the chat box, share with us which country you are from. Before we start, we want to share with you just a few guidelines. I would like to highlight that instant translation service to Arabic is available and is activated through the global icon, which will appear in seconds on the Zoom screen at the bottom. Note that the original sound must be muted to hear clearly. أحب أن أنوه توفر خدمة الترجمة الفورية للغة العربية، ونرحب بتقوى والتي ستقوم بالترجمة ونشكرها على ذلك، والتي يمكن تفعيلها من خلال أيقونة الكرة الأرضية أسفل شاشة زوم. الرجاء ملاحظة أنه يجب وضع الصوت الأصلي على الصامت للاستماع بوضوح. To obtain a certificate of attendance, you must attend at least half an hour and must fill your data through the link that will be shared after 30 minutes in the chat box. Please note that broadcasting of this webinar is available via Facebook Live. However, you need to register via Zoom to be eligible for the certificate. We highly appreciate you fill out the feedback survey, which will be posted in the chat box after 30 minutes. This survey will also open automatically upon completion of this webinar. We highly appreciate to fill these feedback survey. Let's start. I'm Natalie Habak. I'm from QRTA team, and I will be moderating today's session. And here we go. We are pleased today to welcome with us Safeena Husain, who is going to present a great session, an excited session about barriers to girls' education and educate girls' interventions. But first, allow me to introduce Safeena Husain. Safeena is the founder and board member of Educate Girls, an Indian nonprofit organization working towards empowering communities for girls' education in some of the hardest to reach villages. Safeena graduated from the London School of Economics and worked extensively with the unserved communities in South America, Africa, and Asia before returning to India. Safeena has received several local and global awards for her achievement in transforming girls' education in India. Her efforts to bridge the gender gap in education in India has been instrumental in Educate Girls achieving a major global milestones, where Educate Girls have enrolled over than 11,000 girls up to date, impacting over 15 million beneficiaries. Today, Safeena will tell us more about the great work she has doing to educate girls. Please note also that if you have any questions, write in the QA box and Safeena will be able to respond to your questions after she finish her session. Thank you, Safeena, for being today. We are very excited to hear this session. Please go ahead.
Dear Natalie, thank you so much. It's really such a pleasure being here at this webinar and this event. And really, it's wonderful to see so many people have logged in and from so many different countries. I am cognizant that we will be translating this, so I will take a pause and just see what works in terms of the translation.
Yeah,
or is it?
No, you can go with your header, but the people, they can mute your voice and they can listen to the instant translation. So don't worry.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you so much. So I am in Mumbai today, and just very grateful to the audience and to the Queen Raina Teacher Academy for actually bringing the issue of girls' education and giving it such prominence in your event. First of all, the question is, why is girls' education even important, right? And we know that the world, because we have so many different problems in the world. We currently with the pandemic, we've had resurgence of so many areas going into poverty. There's war, there's inflation, there's so many problems in the world, very complex problems, interconnected problems. Why should we be caring about girls' education at this time? And I think first and foremost, it's really important to remember that even the World Bank says that girls' education is possibly one of the best investments that a country can make. With the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 9 can be positively impacted if you educate girls. And as we race towards meeting the SDGs by 2030, girls' education becomes a really hugely important lever in helping the globe there. So anything from poverty, unemployment, there's just like malnutrition, any of the issues that we kind of talk about can be very positively impacted if girls are educated. The most interesting piece of data that I saw a few years ago was Project Drawdown, which is a group of 80 climate scientists, because climate change is obviously also a big problem that the world is struggling with and thinking about. They rated 80 actions to reduce global warming and to fight climate change. And out of those 80 actions, number 6 was girls' education. So at number 6, girls' education was rated higher than electric panels, solar panels and electric cars. Like, it was that powerful a lever. So really, girls' education is an extremely important lever for us to fight poverty, for equality. But more than that, I think I always try and remember this, is we have to do this not because it's great for us, for our communities, for our planet, but really at the heart of it because it is her right. And it is every girl's right to go to school. Yes. And therefore, it is our moral imperative to make sure that every girl is in school and is able to achieve her full potential. So with that, I'll move to India and to my work. India has made huge progress in terms of universal primary and elementary education. It has very few, in terms of a percentage, fewer number of girls who are out of school. However, given that we are a country of 1.4 billion people, that is still over 4 million girls today who are not in school. These are girls who are either dropped out or are never enrolled. And this is the group that the work of Educate Girls and my own mission has been for the past 15 years. Now, what is the core piece that keeps girls out of school? And I find it to be what I call the 2 Ps. The P of poverty, and when it is combined with the P of patriarchy, which is our mindset, how we see girls, how we see gender. When you combine these 2 Ps, the poverty and the patriarchy, that's where you see major explosion of out of school girls numbers. Right? So these are the 2 main factors that are actually at the core of girls not being in school. So I'll give you a couple of stories just to sort of illustrate what that mindset really does. I met a girl called Naraz Nath. Naraz means angry. And when I asked her, saying, "Why is your name angry?" she said, "Because everybody in my family was so angry when a daughter was born." Another girl called Antim Bala. Antim means the last girl, because everybody hoped that that would be the last girl to be born. Another girl named Achuki. Achuki means somebody who has arrived, not wanted, but arrived. And that's what our girls have to face. Imagine if that was your name. And, from the day you were born, you were made to feel and to know that you were not wanted. You had just arrived and you were just there, but you were not. So my organization that I started is really working to change this. And so we work in some of the most rural, remote, and tribal villages. And the way we work is, because it's a mindset problem, we first, in a village, we find young, educated youth, both men and women. So both young boys and young girls who have actually gone through school or college themselves. Because what that means is that they understand the value of education. If I've been through school, then I understand why education is really important. Once we find these young people from the villages where we work, we train them, we handhold them, we mentor them, and make them strong to be able to fight this fight with us. And then our work starts, which essentially is that we go door to door in the village and we knock on every single door to find out of school girls. Every single door is knocked upon. And we do this also with a smartphone. All of our frontline workers have a smartphone. We have an Educate Girls app so that the data is coming to us in real time and is very good quality data. And this way we make sure that not even one girl is missed out. If she's not in school, then she will be in our survey. We will be able to help her and impact her. So to give you a sense of the scale of this, in the last 15 years, we have knocked on over 5 million households to find out of school girls. And I have to say, when we do the survey, we put our logo, in front of the house, so that we know that, yes, this particular household has been covered in the survey. And one of the girls said to me, and this was really powerful, because it's not just a door-to-door survey. What you're doing is you're making your mission at the heart of everything, right? So every little girl who's walking around in the village sees our logo, and she knows that she is important, and she knows that there's somebody looking for her, and her information, her data, her being in school is important. So it's really also about standing with the girls and saying, you're not unwanted, and this is a really important exercise. But through this door-to-door survey, we're actually able to find every girl who's not going to school. She may have been dropped out, or we find girls who have never been enrolled in school, right? And then we start our community mobilization process, which is really the process of convincing her family, her neighborhood, her village and community that she should be in school. A lot of the times, people within the family will say, well, I'm okay, but, my mother-in-law isn't, or I'm okay, but, and so it means like navigating the entire sort of family dynamics. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm okay with it, but in my neighborhood, nobody sends. So I can't send till other people in my neighborhood send. So then you have to do neighborhood meetings, and you have to kind of take neighborhoods along. And then sometimes you have, entire villages where people are just like, no, this is not for us, or for any other challenge. It could be distance, it could be, different things. So from our perspective, in terms of our entire experience, it takes anywhere from about 3 weeks to many months to actually be able to convince a parent or a family or a neighborhood to send their girls back to school.
Yes.
The very interesting things that we've learned over time is that the younger children, the younger girls, the shorter amount of time to bring them back into school. But as they get older, and especially as they cross the age of 10 or 11, the barriers, the challenges get much more, because we also have very high instances of child marriage in such areas. So the minute the period comes, they're like, well, why should she go to school? Might as well just get her married. So there's that challenge as well that comes in. For the adolescent girls, there is a heightened risk of their safety. There is, if there's a distance from school is more. So these become, the challenges actually increase with age, which is why we try and make sure that you try and find the girls as young as possible and get them in school. Because if you try and do the preventive work after they've been in school and they're older, it's much harder to bring them back in. So when we do our door-to-door survey, we're actually building data for every child who is like, almost 2 to 3 years old, because we know that as soon as they hit school going age, you want to do preventive work much more than the curative work, because the problem every year she's out of school will get harder. Excuse me. So that's what we do. And once all the girls are in school, then we actually work with the school administrations to make sure that the school is girl friendly. It has a separate toilet for girls. It has, safety, boundary wall, a lot of different things. And if the rural and tribal schools don't have it, then we help the communities to actually write a proposal to their ministry and saying, we need this so that it can get budgeted and can actually come. So really helping with making the overall, working with the student management, the parent management committees, and making sure that the schools are actually girl friendly. Finally, we also work on learning, because children who've been out of school, they need the bridge support, right? If a girl's been out of school for 2 years, she's going to need X amount of bridging support before she can actually be mainstreamed in a way that she's retained and she's actually able to complete her schooling. So there's a lot of Hindi, English, and math, foundational literacy and numeracy that we do in terms of our bridging support. And then finally, for the adolescent girls, we have a life skills program, because as I say, patriarchy works in a very insidious way for women. It hollows out your self-worth and your self-esteem. It makes you believe from a young age that you are worthless. So the life skills program is really to sort of fill that inside up, to say you're worth it, for your self-esteem, for your own confidence, for being able to communicate and say what you feel. A lot of the times, the small things that we see, when you sit with a group of girls and you'll ask them to introduce each other. So like if I'm asked to introduce Natalie, a lot of the girls will say things like this: Natalie, I like Natalie because she is a good girl. She only speaks when she's spoken to. And that's like the word she's saying. Natalie is good because she only speaks when she's spoken to. So you have to sort of break a lot of those barriers when you work with girls through life skills, so that they feel like, yes, I can talk, I can put my voice across, and to have the confidence to do that. So that essentially, from finding out of school girls, enrolling them, helping with the bridging, the learning support, and then life skills is really at the heart of our model. And we've been doing this for 15 years. So I started with like 50 schools in Rajasthan, and today we work across over 20,000 villages in 3 states, in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttar Pradesh. And we have brought back to school girls who were dropped out and never enrolled. Almost 1 million out of school girls have been brought back into the school system. And we have impacted learning through our bridging programs for, again, a very high number of children, an equal number of children. So, in 2019, I had a very big vision. I stood in front of a group of people at TED and I said, you know, I want to solve 40% of the problem of out of school girls in India. And people laughed because they're like, this is insane.
Yes.
You know, India is a big country. We have 650,000 villages alone. We have 1.4 billion people. And they said a small NGO that started off the ground, run by this Muslim woman, and you're saying you're going to solve 40% of the problem. You know, that just sounds rubbish.
Yeah.
But we had a very important piece of information because we had knocked on 5 million doors, because we had all of this data. I had a very key insight. And that insight was that 5% of villages in India actually have 40% of the out of school girls. So I don't have to work in 650,000 villages. I actually have to just saturate, you know, 35,000 villages. And I'm already at 20,000. So I know I can do 35,000. I only have to saturate these. And these are the poorest villages. This is where the most vulnerable girls are. And I just have to saturate it and make sure that I knock on every single door, make sure that every single girl goes to school and completes her schooling. And, you know, so we stood at TED and we said, we are going to do this. In 5 years, we will saturate 35,000 villages with our program, and bring back 1.5 million girls out of school, back into the school system. And we were also really confident because we'd had a gold standard, you know, external evaluation done on our model, which showed that the Educate Girls model works and works really well because it takes us up to 3 years and we can bring 92% of all girls back into school. And our learning intervention can actually create almost like a bridge program, is equivalent to like an additional year of learning for a tribal child, for an average tribal child. So we knew that the model works. We knew it's smart because it uses technology. We knew it is very scalable because we'd already grown from 50 schools to almost 20,000 villages, etc. And so we really felt like we could kind of do this. And we launched that vision. And the first year went really well, and then the pandemic hit. So, and then and schools closed down for almost 2 academic years, almost 2 academic years.
Yes.
Now the pandemic has been devastating for girls' education.
Yes.
You know, even after Ebola, we had seen the data that out of school girls had become triple.
Yes.
Even after the pandemic, the predictions are that 11 million adolescent girls, like globally, are going to be out of school.
Yes.
So I think the situation, it's like we had moved 2 steps forwards, but we have now moved 4 steps back. So if you think about it, a girl at the beginning of the pandemic was in the 7th grade, is today in the 9th grade, and the schools have been shut. And there is no way that she's going to even come into a secondary school and try and pass that because she knows that she will have no support. Girls' household work has gone up so much. They're now on average spending 4.5 to 5 hours every day just doing household chores. And parents and communities have become used to seeing this. So now seeing, a lot of girls, I feel, and I really fear, are not going to come back to school because of the pandemic, because pandemic has made both the poverty and the patriarchy much, much worse. So so I wanted to just sort of like wrap up with that and just make a couple of points, which is that I think more than ever now, we have to go back and focus on girls' education. I think globally we have to pay an enormous amount of attention to what is really happening. And at the end of the day, I have never met a girl who said to me, I want to stay at home. I have never met a girl who said, I want to graze the cattle, or that I want to stay and do all the household work and the cooking and the cleaning and looking after the siblings. No girl says to me that I want to be a child bride. Every single girl I meet wants to go to school. So I think as a global community, it is very much our imperative to make sure that all of those dreams come true. So I am Safeena Husain, and I educate girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Safeena, for sharing these valuable ideas and valuable stories. and all the impact that Educate Girls are doing in India. Let's have, we received, I guess, a couple of questions, and we would like to share with you. First, it's in Arabic. I will translate if you don't mind. From Dr. Alia Defallah. She said that it's amazing the work what the organization is doing. If there is any similar organization or let's say in Middle East or in our region, have you ever met with any organizations doing such like Educate Girls?
So that's a really good question. Actually, Qatar Foundation probably runs the largest initiative for bringing out of school children back into school. They call it Educate a Child Initiative. And they have work across 40 countries doing very some, and we're a collaboration partner with them, but that's probably the largest initiative that I know of. And I think they have, yeah, they're huge. So Educate a Child Initiative is what their website is.
Yes.
Yeah, and they I think during the WISE forum, they definitely showcase a lot of their partners.
Okay, another question from Dr. Alia Kifallah again. She's asking how to protect a girl from discrimination against her or against the she's asking in English also. Okay, against her, especially the girls that wearing hijab. And after we saw a recent news report refusing the girls to go to school, especially the one who's dress hijab.
Yeah, so I think there are two questions. One is obviously the question is around how do you protect girls against discrimination, and I think education is really the biggest inoculation against any kind of discrimination. I think even the girls who are protesting today are doing so because they've had an education. So I think education is really a very, very, very powerful tool around that allows everybody and every single girl to be able to raise her voice.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Amal Ibrahim Mustafa, where's the registration for the certificate? They can answer you online from our technical team. Okay, there's anonymous attendee asking, no, he's Salah Abu Zaid, Mr. Salah Abu Zaid, asking what is the main reason from out of school or girls out of school, out of school girls? What is the main reason that cause out of school girls?
Yes, like I said, I think the main reason really is poverty. So when parents are very, very poor, so they need girls to actually do a lot of the household work. They need the child labor, etc. The second is obviously patriarchy, that if in a poor household, parents will still pay for the boy to go to a school, but not for the girl. So it is the poverty, and so poverty combined with the social norms, with the cultural norms, that actually lead to girls not being able to complete their education.
Yeah. There's another question, maybe it's two questions. One, it's related for Middle East or Arabic countries. He's asking if how many girls went back to school in Middle East. Maybe you can find this, I can answer maybe with the UNICEF studies, maybe World Bank and so on. And there's another question for you, is there any reports for the organization, Educate Girls organization, and how we can benefit from it?
Right. So we have a lot of resources. You can look at our websites. It is educategirls.ngo. And if you visit the website, you'll be able to see a lot of details, reports and information.
Yeah.
And a link to donate if you'd like to support a girl's education.
Yeah, sure. Another question asking if the education is free for the students, girls and boys in India.
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, all government schools are free up until class 8. And secondary school, there's marginal cost of exam fees and books, etc. Otherwise, all schooling is free under the national budget. And so your books, your school uniforms, your midday meals, all of that is provided by the
Government. Mhm. Okay, another questions asking what is the best practice or the best way uh, to get back the girls to school?
Yeah. I think the best way is because the challenges are around poverty, and then the second challenge is around social norms or patriarchy. Therefore, the solution is also about tackling both of these things. So, as far as poverty is concerned, I think we try and inform the parents saying, listen, there is a free meal in the school. So there are benefits, economic benefits, or connecting the parents to social protection schemes. So whether it's the ration, whether it is, so there are government schemes as well. If you connect them and you can help to reduce the poverty, that is one aspect of it. And the second is obviously the mindset change, where, it's like, I won't, and why do girls need to be? There we do the community mobilization. So it is really combining both of these, of tackling the poverty and also changing the mindsets.
Mhm. Okay, let's go. Okay, another question asking how you as an organization or interventions facing the parents reactions about, let's say, girls attending to school.
So yes, I think that really becomes a big challenge. So I think you have to build aspiration of the parents. They need to see the value add of girls going to school. I remember going visiting a school, and in the middle of the school day, the brother came to the school and said she needs to come home because they're guests and who will make tea. That's how low her education is valued. That if there's a guest, then the brother couldn't have made tea for them. He'll come to the school, the older brother, and get the little girl out so she can go home and make tea. And I think that's what we really have to sort of tackle and change people's mindsets, saying she's an equal human being. And yeah.
Yes.
But those are the kind of challenges, day-to-day challenges, that she has to sort of overcome. And these are not large things that happen, but these are small micro things that happen daily, but that work to keep the girl out.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Maybe the questions is getting a little bit different now. It's all about like bias or discrimination. So we answered this question. I'm not gonna repeating. Also, there is another questions. How this is a good question. How you you can the COVID-19 and all the cut period that happened, what the strategies or what educate girls did in for
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, that's a really great question. During the COVID-19, when the pandemic hit, we had full lockdown, and people couldn't come and things. So we actually really thought about this because we work in some of the most remote villages and some of the most rural areas. We were very worried that even in normal times, our women and girls eat last. They cook, they serve everybody, and then they sit down to eat. And so during the pandemic, when there was less food, when there is, even more difficulty, we knew that our women and girls would also go the hungriest.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just really, that is one thing that we just could not allow. So we pivoted from doing education work to actually COVID relief and humanitarian work. So we started delivering rations, dry food, rice, lentils, cooking oil, like that whole big package to every single house at their doorstep, where they could, so that to make sure that the families were supported. Over the 2 years, we impacted almost 1 million people through food relief itself. And we're an education organization, but we had to completely pivot and make sure that we were supporting our communities in the best way possible. Secondly, because schools were closed, there were tribal kids that I was teaching as well, and they were getting pulled into work in a coal mine or become migrant labor. So I was very worried. We were all really worried that we might lose these children, this entire generation of children, right? Because they will become invisible with the school closures. So we actually started doing community level. So at the doorstep, collecting 30, 40 children and running our bridge courses, so that the kids were also connected with education. Because you were like, by the time they'll come back to school, the entire aspiration for education will have gone. So we ran camps throughout the pandemic with all the precautions in place and with all the government permissions, and almost 350,000 children were actually delivered in terms of community-based learning, the most vulnerable children, because these are not children that have any devices. They didn't have access to any online learning. They don't have smartphones, all of those things. So making sure that we took education down to their doorstep. And that's the other piece we did. And we made sure that our field staff, our Team Balika volunteers, that everybody, vaccinations, that everybody got their vaccine, that everybody got connected to social protection schemes, so that they had access to their documentation and everything else. So we actually did about 2 years of just relief work and community-based learning. And then once the schools opened, in the last quarter they have opened, and then we just saw, because we had stood with the community through their difficult times. So last July, we made almost 400,000 calls, just asking community members saying, are you okay? Do you need anything? Some of them didn't understand what COVID was. So just explaining, raising awareness, telling them how they can keep themselves safe, etc. So it's been 2 years of that. And last quarter, when schools opened, we've seen a surge in enrollment. Yes. And we really think it is because we've been able to stand with our communities and build that trust, that when schools opened, we were able to bring many girls back into school.
Yes. There's another question here in Jordan, and maybe almost all the Arab countries, the girls or female students are the female student that attending education or graduating from any degrees, they are more getting education level more than males. So is it the same in India?
No, not really. I mean, again, you have to disaggregate the data. So for rural India, etc., it definitely isn't. In our urban areas and towns and cities, we are definitely seeing many, many, many more girls in school who are topping education, etc. But where we work in the villages, that gap is still very much there.
Yeah. Okay, let's take the last question because our questions time is almost finished. Does the early marriage is a reason from girls getting out of school?
Absolutely. I think early marriage and this pressure to marry the girls off early is one of the bigger reasons for the adolescent girls to actually miss out on school. So yes, and I think it's improving with each year, but my worry is, does the pandemic push it back even further? But yes, it's definitely, child marriage is a huge barrier.
Yeah. Okay, Safeena, maybe our time is almost finished, and we took as much as we can from questions, and maybe we can send you these questions later to be answered. Thank you again for this amazing webinar. I just want to highlight that this recording of this webinar will be available tomorrow on QRTA YouTube channel. Thank you for the participation and the participants today, and hope you will join many coming QRTA talks. Thank you, Safeena, for sharing all of these. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy and your schedule is full. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to us to meet you and to listen to your experience and to your information and valuable idea. If there's anything you want to add at the end.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you again, and have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.